What's up guys and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another Stephen King book review. This is one I've been waiting for a long time to read, and today we're going to be looking at the book Christine. Now this book was written in 1983 and it has around 750 pages depending on what version. This edition, the Hodder English version, has around 749 pages I believe. This is the Halloween edition, so it has a really sweet cover. I love this one. Sort of, I think it's a pinkish themed one, or orange. Anyways, I love the cover of this one. So this book is set in 1978, somewhere in California, and it focuses mostly on two characters, that of Arnie Cunningham and his best friend Dennis Gilder. So Arnie and Dennis are in their final years of high school and they are about to go into the summer. And what transpires in the year of 1978 is that Arnie is about to buy his first car. He doesn't know he's going to buy it, but him and Dennis are driving by somewhere and he just instinctively sees in the corner of his eye this 1958 Plymouth Fury car, red car, classic car, and he's just enamored by it. And he makes Dennis stop and they go over to this place where the car is being sold. It's just on someone's lawn. It's been there for a long time. This is where they meet the character of Roland LeBay. Now he's the man who owns the car, and to much of Dennis's sort of dismay, he doesn't want Arnie to buy this shit bucket of a car that's been rusting out there. Arnie goes ahead of it anyway. He spends all his savings on getting this car from LeBay. So even without the car involved, this is sort of like a coming of age story. It's about the two guys growing up. It's about them finishing school. It's your basic sort of growing up story, finding love. And this is kind of a love story. It is, I would say, a love triangle, but it's more of a love cube. There is a female involved in this story as well called Lee Cabot, and she is the new student at school, and Arnie and Dennis both kind of fall head over heels in love with her at first sight. She's the prettiest girl in the school. Now I said this is a love cube because the car, Christine, has feelings of its own, and that is the sort of big premise of this story, is that this car is not a thing, it's a being. This car comes alive and is a very jealous creature. So Arnie has this connection with the car, and the car has a connection with Arnie. Things start to go a bit weird when Arnie has the car. He starts to change. His personality traits start to change, his characteristics, even the way he looks and dresses. The story has many different characters in it, but it usually focuses around Arnie, Dennis and Lee. Now the book is told from different perspectives, so this book is kind of split up to three parts, and for the first half of the story we're focusing mostly on Dennis's point of view as the friend and his experiences with Arnie changing and how he is trying to look out for him and his perspective of what's happening to Arnie. And then we actually get one from Arnie's perspective of how he's reacting to the whole thing. There's also a revenge plot in this story. Arnie is not the cool kid at school at all. He is the target of many of the bullies there, has been all his life. So he starts off as this sort of acne-ridden, glasses, geeky loser character, which we can all relate to in some way or shape and form. And it's about him changing. When this car is in his possession, it changes him, and the bullies decide to take this up against him, and the car doesn't take kindly to this either, and the car goes on a revenge mission and wants to take down all the people involved with how they bully Arnie, and disappearances and murders start happening, and the police get involved with this. And when the bullies start to go missing or being found dead in a very gruesome way, the arrows start pointing towards Arnie, but there's no proof to be told because Arnie's either have alibis or he's out of town or something. So there's something weird going on around here, and everyone seems to have an idea that Christine may have some involvement in some way, shape or form. So the best thing about this book, I would say, are some of the scenes with Christine itself, and it's just this horror imagery. You know how much I love this horror stuff, so when you get these dream sequences and these scenes where we see corpses in the back of the car and rotting bodies and stuff, it conjures up these really horrible images, and that's the kind of things I like to see in these Stephen King books. I've just come off the back of a lot of short stories and a lot of stories of his that were just more based on reality, and it was good to get back to a full-size novel which is more horror related, more of a horror focus. I love the characters in this one, you can relate to them, and it's just good to see this coming of age story, and you really get to see it from the both perspectives of Arnie and Dennis, and you relate to both of them. Both of them in a way are doing what they think is best. And obviously with Arnie, he has these visors over his head because he's so love-struck with Lee and the car. Most primarily the car, and everyone knows that he has this obsession with the car. And Christine certainly is a character, although he doesn't say anything, being a car, it certainly has a lot of aggression and threat to it. In the scenes where the car is doing its deeds or taking out its rage, you get this vibe that this car is like a predator. It's just picking on its prey. For example, there's a scene where it's just ramming into a stairwell, and the person is trying to get up the stairs, and it is just relentlessly coming back and forth trying to destroy this staircase. It's not letting its prey go, and it's just a really cool way to show how menacing this is as a car. You never really think of the vehicle as such a death trap or something that will bring so much doom, but obviously in this book they describe it as just this threat that just does not stop until it gets what it wants. One thing I wasn't expecting about this book is the period it's set in. I mean, it takes place, I would say, around over a year or so, but a fair bit of it takes place in the winter time, which, if you've seen the John Carpenter film, I don't think it's set in the winter at all. It's probably to do with filming conditions and driving the car with stunts and stuff. Some of it is set over the Christmas period, and that adds a whole new aspect to the atmosphere of the story, with it being snowy and blizzards covering up the vision. So obviously when people are being intimidated by this car, they can't quite see what's going on. They just see the headlights coming through the mist, and it adds a whole new layer to it, to the horror atmosphere, which is great. One way they go into the supernatural in the story is when people enter the car, they kind of go in a dream-like state, and they can't quite be sure if it was a dream or just they're just daydreaming. But there's one scene in particular where Dennis steps into the car and everything just has a filter over it. It seems like he's back in the 50s, and he just has these really weird, vivid visions that he can't really quite tell have actually happened, and they're really cool. It's a really good way to get into the mind of just the sort of evil entity, the power of this car. Other than just being a car that has a radio that comes on when it wants to, you get to see that this is it's like a realm of its own. The parents of the characters are quite involved with this story as well. We have Dennis's parents, and we also have Arnie's, and they're all having this big sort of dilemma of the kids growing up, and if they just think they're growing up or if there's something serious going on. And that adds a whole new layer to the story, especially with Arnie's transformation, as he's getting more bitter and bitter and just changing more into this horrible, completely different person. The parents seem to just pin it all down to him growing up and puberty and just what things he might be getting into in his extracurricular activities, but that's how they see it because they don't know a thing about the car's personality. So it's a different twist on the story of the kid going bad or becoming into devious activities. It's the car possessing him, but the parents don't see that, so it's an extra layer of frustration on the parents' part and Arnie's part on trying to guide himself through his teenage years. The story is quite basic in a way. It's more about coming of age story with a revenge plot with the killer car. That's how you simply put it, but when woven together in the way it is with the characters and just how much you grow in these characters and how much they're developed, I thought it was a really good story. I really enjoyed it, and it was quite a satisfying conclusion as well. Shout out to the movie as well. I do love the John Carpenter movie. I've watched that multiple times. This is the first time I've read the book, so I can quite easily say that I prefer the story in the book, like most stories, because it's obviously going to be a lot more fleshed out, but it was very hard to imagine the characters in the book without thinking of the two characters of Dennis and Arnie in the movie, so that was hard to set my mind away from. That's been my review for Christine. Definitely recommend checking out this one. Hope you enjoyed this review, and yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time.